Hey, it's Mike with Riding in the Ozarks, and we are at Renegade Harley Davidson in Springfield, Missouri again. My buddy Nick, the general manager here, said he was going to loan me a bike to ride to the Spring Fling Rally, do a long-term demo in the sense of like the whole weekend, not, a 10-mile trip around town. So we're going to take this new 2024 Road Glide in white to Spring Fling, ride it in the Ozark Mountains like it was meant to be ridden. We're gonna go have a good time on this thing this weekend. I'm gonna give you a full review on it, talk about the features on it, what I like, what I don't like. Now, this will be the most I have ridden a Road Glide because I'm a street glide guy, and I've only rode a Road Glide at Sturgis for about 80 miles, and then I rode one on the track at the Harley Davidson press event in Las Vegas. So this is gonna be a big change for me. We'll see by Sunday how I feel about the shark nose versus the batwing, because that's always a big debate. And it's a very personal decision as well. If you've not heard, Harley Davidson has released an all-new 2024 Road Glide. We no longer have an ST, a Special, or base model. It's simply just the Road Glide now. The same applies for the Street Glide, but that's not what we're here to talk about. This new design has a lot going on. New body lines, new suspension, new display, new lighting, and a new water-cooled engine. It may seem a little confusing, but Harley Davidson has released new accessory packages as well, including an ST and a Special package. And this particular Road Glide has been equipped with the ST package. For you gearheads, that means it has a Stage 1 engine upgrade. That's because we have a Gen 2 Pro Street tuner and a black heavy breather extreme air cleaner on this as part of the ST package, in addition to some aftermarket slip-ons from BAM exhaust. I did a separate video on that if you want to hear how they sound, but I will say I was really impressed with the BAM sticks and zombie baffles on this particular motorcycle. There's some other components of the ST package like grips and floorboards, toe shifter, and seat. And I will talk about those components as they relate to this review, but I'm going to do a separate video review on the whole ST package for those that might be interested in that accessory package. So if that's something you're interested in, consider subscribing to the channel so you don't miss that video in the future. Now, as I mentioned, this particular Road Glide has a Stage 1 on it because it has the ST kit and the mufflers. But the stock 117 in the 2024 model has improved specs over the 117 from last year. Harley was able to increase the horsepower from 102 to 105 and the torque from 125 to 130 foot-pounds. I don't know what the specs are with the Stage 1 from this ST package setup, but obviously they're going to be a little better. And I was really impressed with the performance of the 117 just in the stock form, and the ST just makes that all the more exciting and fun to ride with even more horsepower and torque. I can tell you this thing really pulls hard when you get on it from like 2,000 RPM up. That torque is really available even at 2,000 RPM. Not only did Harley Davidson improve the intake and exhaust flow in the 2024 model, they reduced engine heat by using a new liquid cooling system that was kind of released with the 23.5 CVO models that they came out with last year. They were able to also increase the compression just a hair as well. I'm thinking about doing a whole separate review on the differences between this new 117 motor and the one from previous years. If that's something you'd like to see, leave me a comment down below. The increase in performance doesn't hurt when you consider they also shaved another 16 pounds off the running weight of the 2024 Road Glide versus the previous year. You'll be surprised how well balanced this bike is for something that weighs 838 pounds in running order. Everybody likes to say they're a 900-pound pig, but the fact is we're getting closer to being an 800-pound pig. Now, thanks to a 6-gallon tank and a 44 to 45 mile per gallon average, you're looking at 240 miles in range before you have to stop and fill up again. Even with this ST package and the Stage 1 upgrade, I was still able to get 45 miles per gallon average over this 600-mile review. I know the new looks are a significant change, and most people are either going to love them or they're going to hate them. Now, some of you may not have grown accustomed to them yet, but I can say that the more I look and ride these motorcycles, the more accustomed to the new styling I get. I remember when I first saw the new Street Glide thinking it looked like a Chieftain. That doesn't even occur to me anymore. Now this new look isn't just about changing the looks, but it's an improvement in aerodynamics and is supposed to increase the comfort for the rider. I'm not an engineer, but I definitely think the bike is more aerodynamic and comfortable than it was in the previous years. But there are some other subtle changes to help with that as well. Now, Harley Davidson claims that in wind tunnel testing, that helmet buffeting was reduced by an average of 60% for the majority of riders compared to the 2023 models. They've added the addition of some wind deflectors and an air vane in that top vent as well, so you can control the airflow more to your specific liking. You know, if you hot day and you want to get more air, great. If it's a cold day and you want to shut that off, you can do that as well. I really like the fact that the new design incorporates the LEDs into the bat wing or the lighting system into the fairings, and that you don't have those additional turn signals down there. And on the Street Glide, you'll notice there's some wind deflectors there. That's to help with this whole buffeting situation. So I think a lot of engineering actually went into this design. After 600 miles of riding in the Ozarks, we'll see if the Road Glide can change my opinion on the Road Glide versus the Street Glide debate. A lot of people have told me that the Road Glide is a lot better than the Street Glide for buffeting on the highway. I will have to say, after riding the Road Glide at Sturgis last year with the Harley Davidson guys and on the track, that I do think right out of the box, the handlebars on the Road Glide are a vast improvement over previous years and over the Street Glide as far as height. They're more comfortable, they have a wider, flatter bend in them, and I think the ergonomics on the Road Glide is vastly improved in the stock form over previous years. You even have 27 degrees of adjustability forward and back in the rotation of those bars. Speaking of comfort, I think the new seat design does have an improvement over the original design. I did find it more comfortable. The stock seat height is around 25.9 inches. That is a little lower than the 2023 Road Glide, and it's almost a whole inch lower than the 2023 Road Glide ST. Now, on this particular run, this review, I had the switchback touring seat on there because that's part of that ST package. So I did spend a whole day in the stock seat out in Vegas, and I think the switchback touring seat is an improvement over the stock seat. I didn't have any complaints about comfort. It was more than adequate for the 8 hours, 300 miles a day I was putting on the bike. I was typically riding at speeds from 35 to 75 mile an hour, let's say, through the roads of Northwest Arkansas. We weren't on the interstate hammering down at 80 or 90 mile an hour. I didn't put a ton of miles down, but I did have this bike for a little over 48 hours and put 600 plus miles on it in that time period. So I averaged about 300 miles a day, and I had no discomfort with this switchback touring seat. Now, one of the issues with the outgoing 2023 models, besides the ST, is the 2.1 inches of rear suspension travel. The new 2024 has 3 inches of travel, which is what was on the ST models. So the fact that they could get 3 inches of travel and still lower the seat height by an inch is another improvement in design and engineering. And I applaud Harley Davidson on it. 3 inches of travel really improves the comfort and the handling of this motorcycle over previous model years that only had the 2.1 inches of travel. So the 2024 model has dual outboard emulsion shocks. They have the springs on both sides, and they have preload adjustability. Previous models only had springs on one side. The other side was what you might call a slave cylinder. Anyway, it's definitely an improvement in the rear suspension. Now, don't worry about the front suspension. Although it's not adjustable, it is new components, and it is retuned specifically for the engineering of this motorcycle, and it was a big improvement as well. I didn't realize how much a difference good front suspension would make to the handling till I upgraded my 2016 Street Glide with the front end kit from Progressive Suspension, and the front end really felt a lot more planted in these hard turns in Northwest Arkansas after doing that upgrade. And that's what I experienced with the stock suspension on this motorcycle. The front end stayed where I wanted it to in these turns. Sometimes you feel like with these big bikes, maybe it's trying to slip or slide just a little bit as you're hammering through a hard turn, and you may have to put a little bit of brake on in the front. And that is not the case with this bike. I didn't feel like I had any of that give in the front end. It really felt planted right where I wanted it to be, and it stayed there on track. So Highway 23 has a section of road called the Scenic Byway Pig Trail. It's about 20 miles of twisty roads with significant elevation changes as you're coming through the Boston Mountain. That was the stretch of road that I really wanted to do this road test on. On this section of road, you'll find some 10-mile-an-hour hairpins, and you have to be careful because if it's a traffic day when semi-trucks are coming up that road, they have no choice but to use part of your lane to make those turns. But it's also a very well-known road that I thought a lot of viewers might be able to relate to. If you've been to Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue, you've probably rode the Pig Trail. Now, some people from Northwest Arkansas will tell you the Pig Trail is overrated. And while it might be, I felt it was probably the most recognizable road that people could relate to. There are some great roads in Northwest Arkansas, including Highway 62 going west toward Rogers from Eureka Springs, Highway 112 bringing you back around to Roaring River State Park. I love the ride from Cape Fear to Cassville on Highway 76. And don't forget about 160 going down to Peels Ferry or Scenic 7. All great roads. I've even rode the Arkansas Dragon. But I thought Pig Trail, being the most well-known, would be the road to ride this on for people to understand what we're actually riding and how that road is. Now, I gotta tell you that this Road Glide handled the Pig Trail great, even with stock suspension. I mean, I really didn't get crazy. I wasn't trying to lay the floorboards down and scrape them through the turns because it wasn't my bike. This was a loaner, and I think that's the respectable thing to do, is not tear someone else's motorcycle up when they loan it to you for a review. But I did put it through a lot of paces. I rode harder than a lot of people would ride that road. And we did it on a weekend when Spring Fling was going on, so it wasn't terribly busy like Bikes, Blues, and Barbecue. So before you tell me I shouldn't be riding that hard on a busy road, we chose a weekend where there was some traffic, but not a lot. I was safe, but yet was able to open the bike up and really give it a good test, and that's what I did. Like I said, the suspension really stayed planted, it rode great, took all the bumps, handled the turns. I was really impressed with the way this bike handled on the Pig Trail in a stock form. I would have to say this is the best stock touring motorcycle I have ridden in the last dozen years since I started riding touring bikes. Now, I know you can go touring on anything, including a Softail and a Dyna, but I'm actually talking about what the manufacturer classifies as a Grand American touring motorcycle. Your Ultras, your Road Glides, your Street Glides, your Electra Glides, those bikes, even the Road Kings. Those are technically a touring motorcycle, Grand American Touring class. Now, I did get to ride this motorcycle on 62 and 112 and on 76, and I even rode it up Highway 65, which is a divided highway, more like an interstate with interstate type speeds. So I got to feel for the Road Glide on that type of environment as well. And we'll talk about what I think about the Road Glide fairing versus the Street Glide fairing in another video. We're gonna save that for a separate video because there's a lot to unpack there. I also know that the huge display is a thing for some people. You either kind of love it or you kind of hate it. Now, as a kid who grew up with computers available in high school and some in the home even before that, I've always been kind of drawn toward technology. That's my career. I work with tech every day. And honestly, I think I'm quite good at navigating software. I usually find it intuitive to figure out how to do something in a piece of software. With the Skyline OS, I don't find it that intuitive. There is a lot there. There's some amazing functionality and customization you can do. But I found with the hand controls and the menu system, it was not always intuitive to get to the things that I wanted to get to, and I felt like I needed to reach up and touch the display to try to get to certain things because I couldn't figure out how to do it with the thumb pad. That's an issue. You don't want to be doing that when you're riding if you can help it. You want to try and keep your hands on the wheel. And the Road Glide screen is still a little further away than the Street Glide screen, so it's even more difficult to reach up and touch. And I wasn't really comfortable doing that, maybe because I'm not a Road Glide guy, but I just wasn't. Now, I think there's some great things about the Skyline OS and the new display. I love it. I do think it's an added functionality and feature that adds value, but I think that maybe the navigation could be redefined a little better. It could be improved upon. Luckily, that's a software update that could be applied to existing bikes if they change that in a year or two and improve the functionality. We're going to talk about that in another video as well. I'm going to talk about some of the things I don't like on the 2024 models in a separate video. So as much as I love the new models, that doesn't mean they're perfect. Now, I experienced no bugs or problems with this motorcycle during the 600-mile review. I know some other content creators have had some issues and they've talked about those, and I don't doubt them. I'm just saying I didn't experience that on this review. During my review of the motorcycles that I rode at Daytona Bike Week, I rode new Harley Davidsons all week down there, several hundred miles on different models. I experienced an audio issue once where there was no speaker output. I talked to Harley Davidson about that back when I left Daytona. I was informed a few weeks later that they feel that issue was resolved by an update. If you're having that issue or have had that issue where you lose your audio output to the speakers, I would recommend getting your bike into the shop or trying to do the over-the-air update yourself. It is something you can do yourself. All right, guys. Well, I think this was a great road to test this bike on, see how it really handled. And I think the suspension did great. The bike stayed planted. It did really well through the turns. The motor has plenty of low-end RPM torque. So at 2,000 RPM, when you come out of a turn, you can just crank on it. You don't have to downshift. It's got the power and the torque to just go ahead and pull even in an uphill change in elevation. So really, overall, great motorcycle. There's a few things I would change on that. We'll talk about that in a future video. I want to give a big shout out to Renegade Harley Davidson for offering to let me have a 2024 touring model for the weekend. We've had a really fun time, and I've really appreciated them letting me do this on this bike. You guys, I want you to go down below, find the link to their social media channels, go give them a follow, give them a shout out, tell them thank you for working with Riding in the Ozarks, and maybe we'll get the opportunity to do more of these type demos in the future. Y'all stay safe, keep on riding, we'll see you in the next one.